Thank you all for joining us for today's WP Courses workshop on fearless theme switching in WordPress.com. My name is Tanya. I'm the courses coordinator here at WordPress.com, and I've got my colleague Drew helping, and I believe one of my other colleagues is with us as well. Andy has joined us. I announced him actually in our community that he is brand new to our team, so it's exciting to have him here as well. So for fearless theme switching, on the screen, I've got a slide that kind of talks about some best practices to start with. So you'll notice the first one says create a duplicate as an optional thing. This really is optional. You don't need to, but some people do like that sort of safety net. They prefer to have, that extra copy, a site to play in where they can make changes, and it doesn't matter if it all goes sideways on them. They can just wipe that and start again. Nothing wrong with doing that at all. It's also not entirely necessary, okay? And we'll see why in a few minutes. But definitely, if you want to create a duplicate, the simplest way to do that is under Tools. You would export out just your data. That's going to give you your main content. So pages, posts, media. You would export that out. It's going to give you an XML file. And then you would create a new free site and you would import that file in. And that's going to give you a duplicate of your content. And then you can do whatever you like with the theme, and it's not going to affect your live site at all. Okay, so that is one way to do this if you're really, really nervous and just don't want to mess with your live site in the moment. Okay, schedule enough time. And this is really important. You don't want to go into something like this when you're on the clock and you're in a rush and I got like 20 minutes, I can do this real fast. That's when everything is going to go wrong. All right, so definitely give yourself some breathing room, and then it'll probably go quite quickly and smoothly, and you'll have extra spare time. All right. List what tools you're using. Know what is in your site. So spend some time to poke around and investigate what you're using in your site. If you're on one of the lower plans in WordPress.com, if you're on free or if you're on either personal or premium, these are what we call a simple site. They don't have any external plugins or themes or anything like that. And they are fairly straightforward. They're fairly simple to work with. You don't have a ton of extra pieces and tools to be worrying about. But if you're on the business plan or higher and you've installed third-party themes and plugins, you're in a whole new world. And there's a lot of different moving parts that could, impact the process of changing themes. So it's important to know what you have and just make a list of it. Like, that's the biggest thing. If you have plugins, you'll have an option under plugins to view your installed plugins. Make a list of them, get familiar with what your pieces are. And that right there is going to help you, avoid some problems right out of the gates. Okay. And understand that not all themes are created equal. So I'm going to show you in a minute that in WordPress.com, we basically have 4 main buckets of themes. And if you've been through our intro to blogging course, in the first module, we actually list out what those different types of themes are. And we also talk about custom and third-party themes in there. But our provided themes fall into 4 buckets, and it's classic, hybrid, universal, and FSE or block. And universal is actually kind of tied with those FSE ones. They just work a little bit differently. So those are the 4 main buckets, and they do work a little bit differently. And we're going to switch back and forth between some of those different themes live. We're going to do that in just a minute here. A few caveats to think about here. Okay, your pages, posts, and media will be synced during any theme switch. It won't matter what you're going back and forth between. Anything that you have under the post section, the media section in here, and the pages section in here, none of that is going to get lost. You cannot lose that content simply by switching a theme. Okay. Where you might run into some challenges, as I cover later on this slide, is in removing third-party themes and plugins. That may impact site content. Because if you're using, say, for example, the Astra theme and the Elementor plugin, and you've built your content inside of Elementor, and then you decide to switch away from Astra, you go to one of our themes, and in the process think, oh, I don't need Elementor either because that came with Astra, and you deactivate those pieces, it's going to change your content because they're third-party tools, and anything built in Elementor, it's a page builder, it's a custom feature. And if you deactivate that plugin, all the content you built with that plugin is going to turn into code. It's just going to be a bunch of shortcodes. Now, the plus side is you can reactivate Elementor and your content will come back. So again, it doesn't delete it, but it is going to look different. Okay, so keep those types of things. And that's why it's important to know what tools you are using in your site. Okay. A couple other points, custom CSS. It is theme specific. So when you switch between themes, if you have any custom CSS in your customizer under additional CSS, it's not going to copy over. And often it won't work in a different theme. Some CSS will, some is kind of more universal, if you will. It works between themes, but often it's specific to the theme it's applied to. You are more than welcome to copy that CSS into like a text editor or something to save it in case if you need it with the new theme, but it may or may not work with the new theme. So keep that in mind. The classic themes will present the most changes. Classic are the most different in all of the 4 types of themes that we offer, excluding third-party and custom themes that are built. Those are a world of their own, okay? Also, the templates that I'm going to show you with the block or FSE themes don't transfer between themes. So if you build content in a template in one block theme, and then you switch to a different block theme, then that template content, that's not going to move over with it. But if you switch back, it will still be there, okay? And again, I'm going to show you that. So those are the caveats, and I'm pretty certain, yes. Oh, well, tips and tricks. I'm just going to show this list real quick, and then I'm going to show you this stuff in the site, okay? So things to be watching out for include your customizer settings, if there are specific theme options, if you have backgrounds or headers set within the theme, and if your site is using widgets, okay? Not all themes work with widgets. The new block themes don't use widgets at all, okay? Sheila's asked, what if we don't remember if we performed any CSS additions? You would want, this is where you want to investigate your site before you start making changes. So I'm on a free plan right on this site, and I don't have access to CSS. So you could go appearance, additional CSS, click on that, and it's going to take you into your customizer and show you your CSS section. Okay. So on my free plan, I don't have access to CSS, so I'm not using any CSS. If you're on a premium plan or higher and you have CSS, you're going to see it here. It's going to be shown there, and then you can just highlight it, copy it, and paste it into a text editor. Okay. So, and that's probably, I mean, it's a great question, because a big part of all of this is how do we remember what we have set up? My recommendation is don't try to remember it, investigate. Go through your customizer, look at what each of your settings are. Do you have a logo in place? You might switch to a theme and the logo doesn't transfer. So know that you had a logo or not before you switch, okay? So it's really important to understand what pieces you have configured and how they're configured in your customizer, and if you have any plugins or special tools or any of that sort of stuff. You can also check from the themes page, which this put me back to here, what theme is currently active. Okay, so this is right now using the Russell theme. So that's how you want to investigate. And you'll also notice on the Russell theme, I don't have any widgets. There's no widget area under appearance. And when I was in the customizer there, let's just open that up again. I don't have a widget section showing here. Okay, so this is one of the themes that doesn't work with widgets. And if you switch from a theme that has widgets to a theme that does not have widgets, those widgets are not going to display in the site. When you switch back, you will have access to them again. Okay, so let's jump in and do some of this stuff. So first off, let's take a peek. Okay, this is my site. This is a live site. You can, oh, I know what I did. I actually have one more slide. I was going to do that. And I said, now let's play. And I actually have this information to copy and paste for you. So I'm going to put this in the chat box. Okay, so that top link, that's the site we're going to start changing here. It's a live public site. It's not my active site. It is a replica of the site, but I like the way my site's set up right now, so I didn't want to change it. But this is a replica of my actual site, and it's got content in it and everything, and it's set up to display just like a normal live site and everything like that. Okay, so you can look at the site on your end to see, and you can refresh it as we go and see the changes it makes. The list of themes that I've included in the chat box, those are all themes that I had on this site at some point or another. I activated them to test them out and try them out. I wanted to include that list for you guys, so out of transparency, when we switch to other themes, you're going to know whether or not it's one that has already been active on this site or not. And we'll switch to something that has never been activated so we can see what happens. All right. So yeah, that's what we're dealing with here. So this is the site we're going to play with, and those are the themes that have been active on this site. So we've taken a look. We've got the home page. We have a blog page. We can see how that's set up. We've got some category pages, that I filtered to only display certain posts. That's what all of these under blog are. We've got an about page. That is a Snapchat filter, by the way. I am not wearing a costume. And yeah, I mean, it's just about page and a contact page with a form. Okay, so we can see we've got all the pieces of a regular site, all the main pages. We've got posts. Maybe let's have a quick peek at a post, actually. We go in and we look at a post. Okay, so we get the post title here, featured image, and then the content of the actual post. All right. So that's the lay of the land. We know what the site currently looks like. So first, let me change to something that I did have active before. Okay, so let's go to Rockfield. Rockfield is a hybrid theme. Sorry, let me step back one more step on this. You can search these types of themes. So for example, you can search for classic themes. And when you do that, all of the themes that show up here are classic themes. And as I mentioned, these ones have the most changes that you will encounter when switching themes, mostly because a lot of them have some sort of built-in custom features. I like Lodestar works with panels on a custom homepage setup, and there's just a lot of different things, and every one of them is different from each other. Okay, so I'll show you a customizer on that one in a minute. But all of the types, so classic, hybrid, you can search for hybrid themes. That's what Rockfield is. We're going to switch to that one in just a minute here. And then if you can search for universal, there's really only one sort of smaller difference with the universal themes. Did they get rid of the filter on me? Oh no, there it is. The main difference is that the universal themes have more information in the customizer than non-universal. But universal, and when you search for full site editing, these themes use the new site editor. That's what we're seeing under appearance here, editor beta, down in the bottom left of my screen there. these use that site editor, which is the new kid on the block. Okay, great tool, a little bit of a learning curve. But mostly these themes don't work with the customizer. You don't need to be in the customizer. Universal give you access to the customizer, which might create a little bit of confusion because it doesn't fully communicate back and forth. So if you have a universal like Russell, try and stay out of the customizer. You don't need to be there for it, even though it's got some settings there. Okay, but I'm not going to deep dive on that because that's not really the topic of this webinar. Let's get to theme changing. Let's go to, and it's not a webinar, it's a workshop, but that's okay. Rockfield, activate. When you activate hybrid and block themes in particular, you will likely get presented with a box like this that gives you the choice of keeping your own homepage content or switching to the themes demo homepage content. Now, when you get pop-ups like this, they're really important to read to understand what's going on. So with this one, it says your new theme design will be applied without changing your homepage content. If we click on this, it says replace my homepage content with the Rockfield homepage, which sounds really scary, but the reality, after activation, you can still access your old homepage under content page or under pages drafts. Okay, so it says replace, but all it's doing is it's swapping it out. It's not deleting your homepage. It's swapping it out, moving yours over to draft and making this one the main homepage. So let's do that so you can see what happens. So activate Rockfield's homepage. We already know this is what my homepage looks like. And when this is finished activating, we can just close that down. We go to the live site, and you can refresh this if you have it open on your end as well. You're going to see we just lost all my homepage content, right? Because we said pull in the Rockfield homepage. So that's what it did for us, is it brought us in a demo homepage from the Rockfield theme. Now, if we go back to our list of pages, we're going to see this is the page right now that is set as the home page. But if we go into drafts, we are going to see this one that says a few seconds ago. And if we actually do a preview on this particular page, we're going to see my content. Okay, so there's my content. It didn't get deleted. All right. So what we would do at this point is we say, well, we didn't really mean to pull in the other home page. So we're going to publish this one. Okay, so that's going to move it from drafts. It's publishing. Okay, so now it's going to show up here in the home page or in the publish pages. Now we can click on these three dots and say set as home page. Okay, so that's going to switch this. And that was the one a few seconds ago. It'll get confusing because you're going to have more than one page that is called home. Okay, you can double check by viewing the page here. See, it didn't switch it. That one's mine. And this one is the Rockfield one still. No, it's not. It just likes to mess with me. Let's refresh. This one should be the Rockfield one. Interesting. You got me. I don't know why it's showing both. But what we can do is the one that is not set as the home page. Okay, see, that preview just wasn't working right. We go into the editor, we see the Rockfield. We can now switch this to draft. Okay, are you sure you want to unpublish this? Yes. Okay, so now wait for that to save. Okay, it turns back to a publish button. It's saved. Down the bottom here in the left, it says page reverted to draft. All right, we're good. So now let's go back to our list of pages. Now we just have the one home page set as the home page, and we're going to have the other one showing up over here. Okay, so that's the Rockfield one that I've just moved to drafts. Now let's go back to the live site. I haven't refreshed, so it's still showing Rockfield. Now we've refreshed the browser and it pulls us back our homepage content. Okay, so you can see how there might be a couple of steps. If you just choose to replace your home page, you got to get things back to the way they should be. The other thing you might find when you switch to certain themes is that under settings reading, you're going to see here that I've got it set to be a static home page, and I have a page assigned as the home page. Some themes are built to display your latest posts on the home page, and changing to those themes might change this setting. It might flip it over to your latest posts and not display your static home page. All right. So if you do end up with a home page that is just like, oof, what is this? This doesn't look anything like anything. Check your settings reading and double check that this is configured the way you had it configured, which is another note. That's another setting you should check before you start making changes, right? Know your setup, know what you have and how it's being used. Okay. So we're good. That's the way we want it. We're going to go back to appearance. And now we can see how this page is different to, I should have kept it open in another tab. Maybe we can see it here. Yeah, there we go. This is why I like to have multiple tabs open and not refresh so that I can see the differences. So on my previous theme with Russell, this is what the header looked like. With the Rockfield theme, the header is just this black bar across the top. Very simple. It doesn't have that background image. Okay. Now, if I switch back to the Russell theme and we just activate it, I'm not going to pull in the Russell homepage on this one. I'm going to keep my homepage. And this was causing me a little bit of grief when I was testing this. So let's see what happens here. Okay. So I've switched it back to activate Russell. We know that this is what it should look like. Let's refresh. Okay. It's not displaying properly. And I don't know if you really notice the differences, but for example, this line here is really tight to the image and these are really wide. Whereas when we look in the customizer, I have space here and this is not as wide. And I did run into this a few times when I was switching themes back and forth. So this might be a hiccup that you run into where you switch back to your main theme and it doesn't display right. What I did find is going to a different theme. So in this case, I went to zoologist because you can see in my list of themes, that was kind of the first, Karuna is what it came in with, but I switched it to zoologist right at the beginning. So I activate zoologist and refresh the preview or the live site. Okay, this is displaying better here. It's not as wide, right? So now if we go back here and switch to Russell again, activate, you'll notice this preview looks better now too. I don't know if you noticed it when I first switched to it, but that was what triggered me to say, this isn't going to work properly because the preview wasn't looking proper. Okay, this one is. So now when we activate, we are going to see that this now switches properly. Okay, we've got space above and below this line, and these posts are not as big and wide. Okay, so you might run into little quirks like that, but they're layout issues. You know, all of this content has stayed as I've switched between a couple of different themes right now. So as I said, you don't need to worry about losing your content. It's just whether things look differently. Rockfield was a hybrid. I want to switch to Lodestar real quick. And then I'm going to ask you guys to pick a theme that is not in the list in the chat box. And we're going to randomly switch to something totally different. So first, though, I want to show you Lodestar. Lodestar is a classic theme. And it does have a lot of settings in the customizer that is different. So if we look at this customizer first, this was when I had the Russell theme active. And there's very little in here, right? Site identity, menus, colors, and most of this stuff you actually edit in the site editor. You don't do it here on the Russell theme, ideally. But with the Lodestar theme, this is a classic theme. When we now refresh this customizer, everything's going to look different. Okay, so, and we can actually refresh the website as well and see. Okay, my header image is gone. Got some lady at a computer now. Oh, but look, my posts are still there. Big text. Wow. Okay, that's, it doesn't look great, but it's still there. Okay, so again, we didn't lose the content, but we need to fix the settings. Like, this is gargantuan. And we don't need to have some random image at the top. So if we go to the customizer here, we're going to see now for Lodestar, we've got a lot more options. And a couple of sort of big hints is one, this content options. There's a lot of settings in here, and also one called theme options. And when you have a classic theme, this is more common. You will have specific options to that theme. When you're using a hybrid or one of the block themes like Russell or Appleton, they don't have this. They don't have a theme option section because you're working in the site editor and it works totally differently, okay? But this is how we can then configure this. So as an example, if we go into header image, that's where, the lady at the computer is coming from. So we can add a new image and we can go in and, sure, let's pull that one in. I'm going to say skip cropping. There. Okay, so that's my image. That's what I had on the site before. You would then from here play with your different settings. You would look at your fonts. You could change to a different font, and then you could also change the size, probably small or not. It doesn't want to change that on me. Okay, that one changed. Let's go small. There we go. Okay. Oh no, the headers did go a little bit smaller. Okay. Yeah, so there we go, right? So you can go in and you can adjust some settings and change things up. I don't love that font, but we're not designing a site. We're talking about theme switches. All right, but that's what you would do is you would go through then and adjust all these different settings, and then you would save those settings in the customizer. And so now when we refresh the live site, now the changes I made are showing here, okay? But all my content's still there. Like, I didn't have to mess with that. And even my menu, right? My menu's still here. We can go and look at the blog page. That doesn't look any different because that's just a block that I have on the page. The about page, yeah, it's gonna pull. I don't like that. That's a featured image at the top. That's a thing this theme does. So you kind of play around with the themes and decide, do you like that or no, right? I made those font sizes small for the other page and they went super tiny on this page. So you would want to play with those settings a little bit to find the right balance. I will say that something with classic themes is that one thing that is nice is that they tend to have a real specific setup. So if you look at the demo site for it, you can replicate this setting. This text is intended to be large on the home page. You can't make it small without affecting the rest of the site, okay? What's nice is that it kind of does all the work for you if you're willing to set it up the way they have it. This is the classic theme. This is what they're presenting. Here's what you get. If you want more control over your site and how everything looks, the new block themes are the way to go. So ones like Russell. Okay, now we've seen what happened here. We switched this over. We've got my big face at the top there. Let's switch back to Russell now and let's see. Look at this preview. This isn't right. This is not how that should look. And it's not going to look right when I activate it. But let's activate it anyway so that I can show you. And we're going to go back to the home. Okay, it went big again. I don't know why the Russell theme is doing this to me. It's a little bit of a quirk that I will investigate more later because it wasn't doing it before. But it's kind of good. Like when I ran into this, I thought, you know what, I'm going to leave it and show you guys anyways, because you might run into this. And better for you to know that quirks like this can happen and you can resolve them simply by going to something else. In my case, I just keep trying zoologist and that seems to solve the problem. I don't know why. All right, so if we go zoologist and then we don't even have to look at it, we can just go straight back to Russell again. and activate. We're going to see now this little preview window is showing better. So now we can activate that. And hopefully that did the trick. There we go. Okay, so we went to a classic theme. We changed things. We had a different header. We changed the fonts and everything. Going back to the Russell theme, everything is fine. It looks exactly the way we had it at the start of all this. All right. So hopefully you're starting to get a sense of, you know, it's okay to make these changes. You're not going to lose stuff. What else did I want to show you? Oh, this is something I want to demonstrate on this is I keep talking about this site editor. Okay. This is what we use for block themes. I really recommend learning how to use it. It is absolutely fabulous. And if you haven't seen it in our courses site under blog, down in our archive section, let's have fun with FSE, the raw basics of site design. This post, I'm going to give you the link in the chat box. This gives you a really good introduction to working with the site editor, okay, and how templates work and how it all fits together. So that's a really good starter article if you're curious about these types of pieces. But what I'm in right now is called the site editor. It looks very, very similar to the regular block editor where you create your pages and posts. A couple of telltale signs is one, we've got a template name at the top. And if we drop that down, we're going to see browse all templates. You don't get that in a page or a post editor. Okay. When you open the settings sidebar on the right, it says template at the top instead of page or post. Okay. So these are hints that you're in the site editor. And the idea here is not to build your content in the site editor. Not at this time. Hopefully, eventually, it's all going to be one happy family. At the minute, we have a separation. You build your templates in the site editor. And what we're going to see if we look at the list view is we have this header. Okay, this is a custom header that I've built out. And if we just click on something here, it's going to expand all these pieces. And I added the cover image so that that's the image behind it. You know, I've got my site title, my tagline, I set up my menu. I did all that in here. What doesn't happen with these editors, or sorry, with the block themes, is that if I switch to a different block theme, this template is not going to move over. It's not going to come to the other one. Okay. The other thing too is you can look at a list of your templates and you can create custom templates. And if you create a custom template in this particular theme, that custom template is not going to move over to a different theme. Okay, so that's just something I want you to be really aware of when it comes to working with these block editors, is that the templates and the changes you make in them are totally, currently, they are totally individual to the theme you have active. Okay, so let's look at what happens when we switch to, let's have a look here. If anybody has a theme they'd like me to switch to and try, let me know. But just looking here, I didn't use Appleton on this one, and Appleton is a block theme. So let's go ahead and switch to the Appleton theme. I'm going to keep my homepage content. I'm not going to pull in theirs. We already know, and the same thing would happen here. If I pulled in theirs, my homepage would move to drafts. Okay, it's the exact same process. It's just extra steps that I don't want to take right now. So let's activate the Appleton theme. Okay, Appleton is now the active theme for the site. Let's go here. This is what it looks like in the Russell theme. We're going to refresh this, and we see that header has changed. Different type of menu as well. I've got a little toggle thing here. So the blocks and the content are all there. That's all the same, but that top header is gone. And I'm actually going to close that, not refresh it. If we go back to the site editor now, we're going to see okay, so the header's at the top there. If I open the list view, we can see it's called header. It's got the same name. It does not have any of the pieces that I had created. It doesn't have my cover block. It doesn't have my menu the way I had set it up. It's pulled in the same pages. Sometimes that will cross-communicate, not always, but it's a different style. It's got this toggle thing, which is actually just a setting. So you can go in here and you can turn that off and you're going to get the full menu. You can also just have it on for mobile only if you want. Okay. So you've got some options there. But that's what I'm talking about when I say the template is not going to transfer between the themes. Okay, so just be heads up about that. But again, good news. Okay, I'm going to leave this. I'm not going to save changes. We're going to go back to, should I bother going straight to Russell? How much you want to bet it doesn't display right? Let's try. Oh, look at that. It worked. Probably because Appleton is a block theme and so is zoologist. Okay, so the preview looks good. That's great. Let's activate this. All right. Okay, so now I've gone back to Russell. We just saw that the site did not have my header in Appleton, right? Switched back to Russell. I'm going to refresh here. Everything came back. All the stuff and work I had done in the template on the Russell theme is still there. So this is kind of a cool thing, to be honest with you, because you could actually set up your site to look totally different in different themes. And then like every 2 months, just change the theme and it'll be fine. Give it a new look, a new facelift every 2 months. Wouldn't that be fun? You just have to preset it up and then you can switch back and forth. And again, you're not going to lose your content. Okay. So now, Barbara, you included a link to your website.
You asked if
There was
somebody wanted to check, and I'd like to know what I have, because I started off with a blog that then I realized I don't need another website and the blog, but then the blog page seems to be the main one. I really would like to have a website, a clean finish one. I did attend one of those other webinars about the upper third, and
yeah.
So that's one of the challenges. Yeah.
Okay. So on my other screen, I've got tools and it tells me that your theme name is Pub.
Pub?
I can't get into the site at this. You would have to go through one of our happiness engineers for that. But
Okay.
if we go in here and we search up Pub, I don't know that this is I don't think that site is using one of these themes. Honestly, you might be on a retired theme.
That's what I'm saying. I think I am, because it was like 15 years ago. I mean, it's been a long time. It was just a blog.
Gotcha.
And then I tried it. So I can't really transfer stuff in then. So I'm kind of.
Well, no, it's fine. It's just I can't pull up your theme on my site to show what it's going to look like, because it's a retired theme. So I don't have access to that theme.
I think something came up and said something, and I'm like, well, because I did take one of those other courses, or one of these, and then I
when you're logged,
yeah.
When you're logged into your account, go down to Appearance Themes, and when you click on that, it'll tell you the name of the theme up at the top here and say this is the active theme for your site. So that's how you're going to know what theme is active on your site. And if you click the info button over to the right, if it's a retired theme, it's going to tell you right here this theme is retired. Okay.
Okay. If it tells me it's retired, but what does that mean? That I can't switch themes and keep my data?
You can switch themes, absolutely. But if you switch a theme, okay, so if you have a retired theme, if you have a retired theme active on your site and you switch to something else, you won't have access to reactivate the retired theme because it's just not there for you to choose anymore. In some cases, depending on how old the theme is, you can reach out to Wordpress Com Support, which you can apparently not get to on this page somewhere. Why don't I have? Oh, they moved it. We have a new help center. I knew that. There used to be a question mark in the bottom right corner that I was looking for. It's now in the top right corner. It's called the help center. But this is how you can reach out to our happiness engineers for direct support. You can also access all kinds of resources and articles and everything. But you would click on that to reach out to our support either via email or live chat if you have it available. I don't have it on a free site. Okay, but that's
I
how
have a
you,
paid site, you know, so.
yeah. So you probably have live chat access, but you can reach out to support. So stepping back, the reason I was showing you that is if you switch away from a retired theme,
You can't go back.
can reach out to us and ask, can I get my retired theme reinstated? Okay. In most cases, it is possible. It's something we have to do on our end. But there are some really old themes that even we don't have access to. Okay. So you'll have to ask the question to see. But when you switch away from the retired theme, like I said, all your pages and posts and everything, that's going to be fine. You're not going to lose any of your content at all. So you can switch just as I've been doing here to whatever theme you like. If we go to independent publisher, which is a slightly different one, you see how plain this theme looks, right? It's a very minimalist. There's nothing fancy about this. It's right. So let's activate this one on my site. And we'll just keep my homepage content. Some of the themes won't, like this is a classic one, so it's not going to give me a preview here, I don't think. I waited a long time yesterday and it wouldn't show up. So, but we just switched to that. This is my Russell look. If I refresh, this is going to be the independent publisher. It looks a little different. Don't love the layout. I would need to go in and tweak these particular blocks to display the way I want them to look. Change my font sizes, different things like that, which again, you do through the customizer because this is a classic theme, okay? But you can do that on your site, Barbara. There's no reason at all why you can't. The thing that will happen is you won't be able to easily get back to the current one. So what you might find is if you switch and you go, oh, geez, I don't like the way this looks, you're going to need to fix it right then and there, right? Or
So this might be a reason why I might be one of the ones that make a copy of it and then play with the copy to see what I want before I actually switch the original.
you absolutely could, especially because you're on a retired theme. It will be a classic theme. And I can't guarantee what that's going to end up looking like when you switch to something more current. Chances are, if you do a search for classic and you look for one that has a very similar look to yours, okay? So, I mean, Libra 2 is not that different.
See, I'm not wedded to the old one because I was so long, it was so long ago, I chose from what was available. Now there's many more things available. I mean, the biggest thing, and you've answered the question, if I'm keeping all my posts and my data and my media, then I don't mind having to change some other stuff. It doesn't have, I don't even necessarily want it to look the way it looked before, you know?
And that's fair. That's fair. I was just saying, if you do pick one that looks similar, it's not going to be a sort of, it's not going to be a huge shock when you load it and it's totally different. Right. But yeah, I mean, if you're ready for a brand new, fresh look, then, you know, don't worry about filtering and just go for
I do know that I did some widgets though. So
yes, you have widgets on yours. So that's something to note. Like I said, with the block themes. So if I switch back to Russell, well, first off, let's refresh this. This is independent publisher. And we have a widget section. Okay. So on your site, you're going to have a bunch of stuff listed in these widgets. And when you switch over to something like Russell, you're not going to have those anymore, right? So they're going to be missing from your site. This is probably the one. Yeah, see, this doesn't work. That's really interesting. Okay, I'm not going to mess around. Go fast. I'm going to activate zoologist, and then we're going to switch to Russell, because that seems to be a formula for success. There. I don't know why it's doing that. It's kind of fun, actually. I need to investigate that. I like quirks like that, though, because, you know, it gives me something that still didn't work, but it gives me something to investigate. Anyways, if we go back to the customizer now for Russell, what we're going to see is we have no widgets here. Okay, there is no widget section. So if I had widgets on this site, you're not going to be able to access them at all. Like they're not deleted because they're still in the other theme, but you're not going to have access to them through this theme. Okay. So if that's the situation, what I would recommend is just write down a list of what are the things you have in the sidebar. What do you have in your footer? And if you end up in a theme that does not have those pieces, at least you know what they are. And now you can look at rebuilding them. So you can put them, like if you're in a template, you can actually create a template that has a sidebar look to it. You know, that's a possibility. I would love to teach you how to do that, but we just don't have time in this particular workshop. But there are ways to do it, is my point. Like there's a lot of options. Okay. So just checking the chat box real quick here. Valenora has asked, my website is currently coherent, which is classic, yes. But I want to move to FSC. When I tried, it looked completely different. It will look different. Do I need to check all my customizations and then see if an FSC template has similar? So what you're going to be faced with on this, so let's actually do this. Let's go to coherent. Okay. So let's activate this one. I'm going to refresh my, this keeps throwing me back into the CSS. Okay, so this is coherent. It doesn't have a lot of real special settings, like it doesn't have a theme options or anything like that. But I mean, it looks really different, right? So with this, what are you going to want to do? You're going to want a list of your widgets because you're probably using widgets on this theme. It has a sidebar on it. So make a list of those. And then any settings. Yeah, just check your settings. Write down, you know, if you click on a color circle here and click on the pick your own link, it's going to tell you what the color code is that you're using on your site. So if you like your colors, go through, make a note of all this stuff. Get out a notebook, piece of paper, write this stuff down. That's going to be your best way to make a switch from something like a classic to FSE. I actually did one over the weekend, and I had the old site and I had the new site, and I'm copying back and forth, and it was, write it down. If I had written down my list, it would have been so much easier. All right. So yeah, do that. You know, if you've got a header image, just check all of these settings in the customizer. Your pages and posts, totally fine. Those are not going to change. And then when you switch to the FSE theme, let's go to, I'm trying to think here. I want a different one. I don't love this one, but let's try this one. Oh, I think I actually had that one already. Oh, well. When you go to the FSE theme, what you're going to notice is you don't have any of your widgets settings here at all. So you're, like I said, you're going to lose those. They're not going to be there. So have a list of them. And then for your colors and all of that stuff, you're going to control that in the site editor. So you're going to open the site editor. And in here is where you're going to now configure your template. What does the layout look like for your pages? And since we're in here, 2 tips I'm going to give you guys. Well, maybe a couple more. 1, open the list view. This list view is so important in a template because you can see all your pieces. When you see the lock, it's important. Don't delete it, okay? Post content is a block that is needed to pull your content into your template to display on the live site. If you delete that block, you're going to have a blank page, okay? So that's important. Open your other sidebars. Settings here, when you click in a block, this is what's going to give you all of your settings for the block that you're in. And this little circle here for styles, that's where you're going to control your global styles for your site. So where on the other theme on Coherent, which I'm not being at the minute, Coherent, you had it over in the customizer. You had color settings and font settings. With an FSE theme, you go into the site editor, you open styles, and now you have options to get to your typography settings. So choosing what fonts you have, and you've got a lot more control over it. You can set it based on text, links, headings, buttons. Same for your colors. You can also edit your color palette up here. Okay, so you can change your default, but then you can also change select elements. You can also change it per block. So you could go in and select the heading block, and you could go in and say, you know, I want to change my heading block to be something other than my default. You have so many options. So take the time to explore. And this is why I say, give yourself time. There's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with this, and it's incredible. This is a free site. I'm on a free plan. I don't have any plugins or custom themes. There is so much that you can do in here. Okay. So give yourself that space and time to learn those different pieces. Okay. Some more stuff in the chat. Let's see here. Sheila got her answer as far as how to determine classic from block. Can I go back to the beginning with instructions on how to duplicate the site before switching themes? Yeah, absolutely. Literally, all you do is from your main dashboard under Tools, click Export, and you want to export all. That's going to give you what's called an XML file. And it's just going to go to your downloads. And then you want to create a new site. So you want to find the Add New Site button. Go through the process of adding a new site. Just put it on the free plan, free domain, all that kind of stuff. And then on the new site, under Tools, Import, you're going to go into the WordPress one and click this link up here, upload it to import content when you have the file, and you're going to actually upload the file here. You can click this to find it, or you can just drag the file on top of that'll work as well. Okay, but that's going to import your content, your pages, posts, and media. I mean, comments and testimonials, like any of the normal built-in content. Okay, so that's how you do a duplicate. I miss Liz, she had to run, and yeah, we're coming up on a couple minutes here, but yeah, I do think I have actually hit all the beats. Let's look at my slideshow. Oh, Valenora has, yeah, see, and then we're into our action plan. That is my last slide. This is great. Okay, Valenora has one more question. Maybe this is the wrong place. Well, we'll find out. But if I like the blog layout from one block theme and the overall layout for everything else in a different block theme, do I just play around with FSE to get at what I want? Yeah. So the thing with FSE is everything is built with blocks. So when you're in a template, like I'm on, I think this is on the Vivre theme right now. I don't love this theme, but as an example, I could go in here and I can insert a block before. I can add my cover block. I can pick my picture. Where's my picture? I think this one. Okay, so there's my cover block. I can now move all of my header stuff up into that cover block. So now we're getting to look more like it did. I don't have a tab with it open anymore, but more like it did on the Russell, right? We say, oh, well, yeah, but we can't see this because it is a black text here. So, and it's also a link because we have it linked to the home page. So we're going to click this link and we're going to say, make that white. Okay, now I can see that. We're good with that. Let's go over to navigation and we'll go down here. First, we'll change the text color. Perfect. Oh, neat. It's got a background. I actually kind of like that. But if you didn't want the overlay background color, you could do that. Now we've got white text on a white background. That's not going to work. So we want to change the submenu text. We'll make it black. There we go. Now we can see our text again. Okay, so you just start playing around and doing what you want with the layout of the header, and you can literally make any FSE theme look the same as any other FSE theme. All you've got to do is think about what blocks are being used and set them up. Okay, so even though the templates aren't transferable, you can create whatever you like. It's fabulous. I love the site editor so much. You got to be willing to play. I'm not going to lie. You need to play and poke around and try things to see what it'll do. Okay. Let's get this back to Russell because I'm not a fan of this theme. I don't like the default fonts that it uses. This is great. Looking forward to playing around with it. Great. Experiment. Perfect. Awesome. You guys are very welcome. So the last slide that I have here is that action plan. And I'm kind of reiterating this because this really is the important part of switching themes. Your content, as I've said, is safe. You're not going to lose that. But things are going to look different. Things might not look very good. Okay. So take the time to optionally create a duplicate site if you want. Definitely give yourself time to sit and play. Don't do it when you're in a rush. Make a list of the features that you're using. If you have plugins, if you're using widgets, if you have CSS on your site. The other thing you'll notice is that if you do switch to an FSE or block theme and you're using the site editor, you are not going to need very much, if any, CSS. I rebuilt one, like I said, over the weekend and converted it from the Heaver theme over to Appleton and got rid of all of the CSS. I didn't need any CSS on the new FSE theme. Okay. And if you're curious, Appleton and Russell are my two favorites. Pick that for what you will. Those are just two themes that I really like to work with. I like their defaults, and also they have a good template structure to them. Okay. There are some themes that are doing a little bit of, they've taken a bit of creative license in what they do with their templates. Okay. Appleton and Russell for me are a little more logical in how they work. And have that end goal vision, know where you want it to go. Okay. Draw it out on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just have a vision of what you're trying to reach as your end goal. Will make it much easier to actually get there and to reach out to us, to the happiness engineers and whatnot, and ask your questions. And if you're, curious how to do a particular thing. So like I just showed you here, if you're saying, I've got a header and I want an image behind the top of my header, how do I do that? You might not have known to add a cover block and move the stuff up into it. Reach out to our happiness engineers and we can help you with those types of things and what can be done. I've mentioned a couple times that I did a site conversion over the weekend, and that was, even for me, the biggest challenge was remembering, what can I do? What piece do I need to achieve a particular outcome? So that's where the exploration comes into play, and reaching out to our support and ask those questions. Okay. And test themes, explore options. And you can do that before even making changes. So one more quick thing to show you here. In WordPress.com, when you're on your themes page, if you switch to the classic view, there is a preview option. Okay, and you can click that to get a preview of what your site will by default look like in this particular theme. There is one caveat I have to give on this, unless they've changed it. we're going to switch to Lodestar. Okay, this is a classic theme, and I think it was the case. Oh, it's still activating. Okay. I don't think the preview works when you're on a classic theme. So now we've got Lodestar activated. Let's go to this one. It's not going to work. You're going to get a blank page. Okay. So if your site is actively has a classic, and I think it happens on the hybrid themes as well. If they're currently active, you're not going to get the preview other than for other classic themes. Okay. So if you want to preview what the different the different block themes are going to look like, you will need to switch to a block theme first. So something like Russell, and then the preview will work for all of the block themes as well. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Anyways, we have gone over time, but I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's given you a little bit more confidence that you really are safe to be doing some theme switches. And so long as your theme is not retired, you can get back to your previous theme and your site won't look any different. Unless you're on my site and it just loads wrong in the first place. But yeah, that's what you're looking at. All right. So thank you all so much for coming. I will get the replay up. I'm so glad I gave myself that note to remember to record. And yeah, I'll get the replay up on the WP Courses site. And sorry, there is one more thing I want to mention. I had the tab open so I wouldn't forget. If you happen to have a self-hosted site and you're not actually in WordPress.com, this is a different version of the workshop I just did now, but it is using a self-hosted site. So it's not in WordPress.com at all. I'll include this in the post with the replay, but I'll also put it in the chat box here for those that are still here. If you have a self-hosted site, that's a workshop to watch that'll be a little bit more relevant than the WordPress.com changes. All right. On that note, I'm going to sign off, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your week. And let us know in the community if you have any questions. We'd love your feedback. All righty. Bye, everyone.